Okay, good morning, students. Previously, we are successfully completed. Up to the topic is called excretion. Okay, today a fresh lesson, a new lesson, an interesting lesson also. It is called as coordination. Clear? The tagline for the lesson is the linking system. Why do you see? Why it is said to be that linking system? Okay, see that. First of all, we have learned the lesson is nutrition, which is called the food supplying system, because during the process of nutrition all the animals and all the living beings procure the nutrients. That's why it is commonly called as food supplying system. Respiration: in presence of oxygen, glucose molecule is break down to release energy. The final utilization of glucose molecule to release energy is called as respiration. That's why that is also commonly called as energy releasing system. Clear? Third lesson: circulation, which is commonly called as transportation of circulatory system. The materials, the substances, either hormones or enzymes or any kind of materials or liquid materials mostly, they have to be transported to one place to another place. This is mandatory to survival of an organism. Every product compulsory. So this is also commonly called as the circulatory system. Next one, excretion, also commonly called the wastage disposing system. The unwanted materials, the nitrogenous waste compounds which produced during the metabolic activities, which have to be eliminated from the body to out. Otherwise, the animal will ultimately die soon. Of course, the organism will die soon. That's why this is commonly called as wastage disposing system. Okay. The sharp lesson is called the coordination. Coordination, which is commonly called as the linking system. What is meant by linking? What is the connection between these organs together to completing a particular task in the body itself? That is commonly called as the linking system. Clear it is? See that regularly we are performing several kinds of actions. So, for example, walking, swimming, okay, riding, writing. So, for example, this kind of actions, any kind of an action, what are the actions we are performing regularly in our day to day life? So, for example, walking, swimming, or bicycle riding, or writing, or any kind of reading, or any kind of an activity, all these actions also coordinated manner, a particular coordinated manner. Without coordination, no work have to be done by the organisms. In multicellular organisms, in multicellular organisms, several kinds of systems are well elaborated, well sophisticated designed manner to perform a particular task in the body itself now. So for the particular coordination, a separate kind of systems are also developed. Okay, these are respectively called as muscular system and skeletal system and endocrine system. Mostly these three kinds of systems are coordinated with each other, especially for our coordination manner. So first of all, muscular system. How these systems are linking or connecting with each other, we will discuss later. Okay. Skeletal system and endocrine system. So for example, a simple example to you, I am giving you an example now. Whenever we are walking on the roadside, for example, from our backside, we listen to horn, either from the bus or either from the bus, a lorry or any kind of car one. Within a fraction of seconds, we people have to give a small gap, or we will be alert, depending upon the horn, how we are listened. I understand. So this is the first of all indicating just like as an endocrine system, for example. A kind of an endocrine system is also acting here as a sensory system. When we hear the sound, that can be taken by a kind of a special system that is commonly called as a nervous system. Okay, along with this particular endocrine nervous system also. So our neurons receives the information as a sound one that when directly taken to the central nervous system as to the brain. Suddenly, the muscular system and the skeletal system present in our body can give a small gap for this one. For movement of our body, a kind of a small motion is taken place. This can be performed by these two kinds of systems. Sometimes some of the enzymes, some of the hormones should be released depending upon the action what we are performing. That can be depending upon the endocrine system. Mostly, these total systems can automatically work together to a particular task in the body itself now. Okay, so for example, when we are walking on the roadside, suddenly a light focused on our face. For example, during the night time especially, somebody focused on light on our face. Suddenly we have to keep our hands like this. What might be happen now? A kind of a stimulation is also occurs in the environment. For example, it in the surroundings. Automatically we people have to close our eyes. This is also a kind of a coordination. Without coordination, we can't able to do anything. Every work what we are performing here, whatever the work, mostly all kinds of physical actions which occurred outside and also the inside. Do you know one more thing? The coordination is also performing by two kinds of sensing environmental parameters. Okay, the sensations which occurs outside of the body, the sensations which occurs inside of the body. So, for example, outside of the sensation, just like I gave the examples, these are all commonly called as outside sensations. For example, internally. So, for example, we people have something hungry, a kind of a sensation taken place in our stomach. We would like to eat something. Okay, so this is the best example for internal environment. So both internal and also the external environmental parameters, any kind of change is taken place that can be performing by the coordination manner. Coordination. That's why this is also commonly called as a linking system. So for example, we are walking on the roadside, for example, in a narrow base, for example, a small narrow base. Just we are crossing the small canal, for example. We people have to walk in a steady manner. Even a fraction of seconds, if our mind is absent, we may automatically fall down. This is completely performing by a particular coordination manner. Okay, that's why whenever we are doing any kind of an action, that can be performing by three kinds of actions. So that is, for example, movement, balance, coordination. Movement is compulsory. That should be followed by the balance. Along with this particular third action is commonly called as coordination. These three kinds of actions together to complete a particular task. What kind of any physical movement? Basically, now. Okay. So, for example, still some more examples to ours. Stimulations and responses. Stimulus and response. What is meant by stimulus and what is meant by response? See that, clearly in the previous classes, of course, in the earlier classes, what is meant by stimulus and what is meant by response? A small definition to you. See that a change in an environmental parameter which can generate a response in the body of an organism that is commonly called as a stimulus. Listen once again. A change in an environmental parameter which can generate the response in of an organism. Okay, that is commonly called as a stimulus. See that, for example, this is an organism. So one more simple example. We people are the organisms or animals. A change in an environmental parameter. Atmospheric temperature is too hot, for example. Our body is ready to sweating. Here, what is the stimulation here? Environmental temperature is too hot. That is commonly called as a stimulus. A change in an environmental parameter which can generate a response in our body. What is the response in our body? That is commonly called sweating. A change in an environmental parameter is called heart, which can generate a response in the body. That is commonly called a profuse sweating suddenly. Our humidity is increasing. Our body ready to sweating. That is commonly called response. Such a kind of response is followed by the stimulus itself now. Okay, that is commonly called as a stimulus. Without stimulus, there is no chance of any response. Response means Depending upon the stimulus, we people have to show the particular action from our body, either internally or externally. That is commonly called as the response. A number of examples can we make for examples of stimulus and response. We observed an excellent scenery. Wow, what a beautiful scenery it is. Our observing scenery is called as the stimulus. Our complement is called as response. When we are walking on the roadside, a small sharp-edged point is pinches to our foot region. Okay, that pinching of foot region is called as stimulus. We draw back our leg is commonly called as response. Atmospheric environmental temperatures or atmospheric conditions, any kind of one, which can show the response in an organism. I'm not saying about the human being, any kind of creatures. Are you understand? So for example, these are all commonly called as, for example, a kind of a photosynthetic bacteria. When we shows the light, they can automatically illuminating in the especially blue and red lights. They can illuminate. Showing of the light is commonly called stimulus. They are illuminating especially in the particular blue and red light is commonly called as the response. For example, sunflower moves towards the direction of the sunshine, towards the sun. That is commonly called focusing sunlight on the flower is commonly called a stimulus. Depending upon the movement, depending upon the sunshine angle, that particular flower is automatically moving direction is automatically called as response itself now. Number of examples we can automatically make for the particular stimulus and response also. Okay, one more activity is also given to your textbooks also. For example, if you people are taken a small long scale, for example, imagine for example, either long scale or duster, whatever it may be. If you are keeping like this, for example, small activity to you. So for example, we are keeping like this. Within fraction of seconds, if you draw back, if you draw the duster, you can hold this particular place. In each and every time, we can't able to hold the particular duster in a particular time. Or understand clearly now? So for example, if you are holding like this, within fraction of seconds, if you leave the duster, we can hold like this. For every time, I am saying this, I'm saying that clearly now. For every time, I can't able to hold that particular place in every time, because our coordination may automatically changes from time to time. That is depending upon complete concentration, our coordination, muscular movement. That is these are some kinds of factors by work we have done clearly now. Okay, so these are commonly called as the stimulus and response actions. There is a small experiments regarding this particular stimulus and response actions. Previously, few hundreds of years back, nearly 129 AD to 129 to 200 AD, a Greek scientist, a Greek physiologist, okay, whose one is called as Galen, done a small experiment regarding this particular stimulus and responses. Basically, in those days, the scientists are also called as the doctors also. In those days, the scientists are also a doctors. So, for example, a Galen, a Greek physiologist, he belongs to Greek. He's an excellent physiologist. In those days, one of the patient is taken to the Galen. The patient neck is blown because due to cause of the falling down from his chariot during the riding, the person is fall down. Suddenly, the neck region has blown down. That particular patient is taken to the Galen. Galen observed completely, but in those days, there is no complete technical devices what present now. What the devices the present have? Or are you understand clearly now? There is no clear devices, but Galen completely observed that particular patient. He also observed two kinds of movements. So first of all, the particular patient loses his sensation, but the person shows the action to the particular places again. I understand. The person loses his sensation, but he shows the particular action. Immediately, within fraction of minutes, Galen concluded this. In our body, there are two kinds of neurons are present. Those are nerves of sensation and the nerves of those of action. There are two kinds of neurons are present in our body. The first one is regarding this particular sensation, which gives the which gives the sensation to our body. Whereas second one is commonly called as the sense of action. But in that particular chariot, the nerves of giving the senses, the automatically loses his ability. Whereas that particular person shows the action clearly. He shows the reactions depending upon the movement of the particular person body now. So regarding this, there is two kinds of neurons are present in our body. He first of all observed. Then further days, several scientists examined several kinds of experiments regarding this particular neurons again and again. Okay, and finally they concluded this nerves are of basically two categories. Okay, those are sensory neurons, sensory neurons, and motor neurons. Okay, the first category is called as sensory neurons, and second one is called as the motor neurons. Okay, what these two kinds of neurons are also gives the stimulations and also the responses, which also making the performing several kinds of actions both internally and also the externally. Okay, so before going to that particular sensory and motor neurons, what is the clear cut structure regarding this particular neuron? Okay, just right. See that the diagram is very important to you. Already you know clearly the diagram is present, already present in 8th, 9th, of course including in our 10th class syllabus also. The longest cell in the human body, of course, the longest cell in the animal body is called as the neuron, which is also approximately nearly 90 to 100 centimeters in length, approximately 1 meter. Within the center point, there is a dark standing body called as the nucleus is present. These fine structures are commonly called as the dendrites. These are the branching like structures with comparing with the tree. Clear? The neurons also categorized into several types. This is a small typical neuron here. Depending upon their structures, depending upon the dendrite arrangement and axon arrangement, these neurons are categorized into unipolar neurons, bipolar neurons, and multipolar neurons. To surrounding this particular nucleus, granular structures. These are commonly called as the Nissel's granules. To surrounding this, the complete one, this is called as the cytoplasm. Okay. At the end of a neuron, these structures are called as the nerve terminals. These are the fine and thinnest structures, which also having the same small buttons, button-like structures. These are terminal buttons clearly, na? By surrounding this, a fiber, a sheath is present. In between this, There is a separate cells called Schwann cells are present. Okay. This is the structure of the neuron. See this? These structures are called as dendrites. Okay. This is called as cyton or soma or pericardia. This is called as cytoplasm. The dark standing body called as the nucleus. These are called as the Nissl granules. Nissl granules made up of RNA and proteins. Okay. This is the long fiber-like structure is called as the axon. This is called myelin sheath. These cells are called as the Schwann cells. At a regular intervals, small gaps are called as knots of Ranvier. These are called as nerve terminals. So observe clearly what is the clear structure of the neuron here. Basically, the neuron has three main distinct regions, three main distinct parts. These are respectively, the first one is called as the cyton, okay, dendrites, okay, next one axon. So first one is called cyton or called as soma or called as pericardia. This can occupy a major part of the neuron. One more thing, this is also commonly called as a structural and functional unit of nervous system. I told you already in the previous classes. Structural and functional unit of the organism is called as a cell. Structural and functional units of the lungs are called as alveoli. Structural and functional units of the excretory system is called as the nephron. Understand? At the same time, the structural and functional unit of the nervous system is called as the neuron. Neuron. A group of neurons and billions of neurons together to call a finally nervous system. This is a small segment. This is a small unit, a microscopic unit, kind of a small cell, structural and functional cell. Clear it is. Three main distinct regions are present. First one is called as the cyton or soma. This can occupy the major part of the neuron itself now. Entire part is completely surrounded by a particular jelly-like material called as the cytoplasm. Within the center part, a dark standing body called as the nucleus is present. To surrounding the nucleus, a granular structures. These are commonly called as the Nissl granules. Nissl granules are present. These Nissl granules are mostly present in RNA and also the proteins. These food materials are useful to the function properly when the message is carried out. Okay, one more thing. The presence of the Nissl granules is the characteristic feature of the cyton of the nerve cell. Clear? To surrounding the particular body. Okay, the second structure is called as the dendrites. These are called as the arranging like a branches of a tree. Branches of a tree. Okay, depending upon the structure, this having the several one. Unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. We will discuss later in the coming topics, of course, in the intermediate syllabus now. Clear? So the dendrites are also the sites for the receiving the sensation, receiving the information. Okay. Third one is called as the axon, the terminal part and the last part, which also connecting to the cyton part. Both the dendrites and also the axon also connecting to the cyton body. Okay. So this is the long body, a cylindrical long procedure. Okay, which can also continuous. One more thing. The depending upon the length of the neuron is depending upon the length of the axon. Or understand? On its length of the axon, a small sheath is present on the part of the one, which is commonly called as the myelin sheath. The myelin sheath is completely made up of the cells called as the Schwann cells, which is completely made up of the fatty materials and also the glycerol components. That's why the myelin sheath is completely white in color due to the presence of the fatty material around this. At a regular intervals, a small gaps are present. This is commonly called knots of Ranvier. The axons which covered with the myelin sheath is called as myelinated axons, which not covered with is commonly called as unmyelinated or non-myelinated axons. Okay, these myelinated, non-myelinated axons are also present in our body. Mostly the myelinated axons are mostly present in the CNS, central nervous system. Regarding this, clear? But actually, this kind of neurons are not clearly observed within the part of the brain or spinal cord. We can't able to observe the myelinated and non-myelinated axons. Of course, especially the dendrites and also the axon. Depending upon the myelin sheath, depending upon the sheath, we can able to understand whether it is the particular axon or the dendrite itself clearly now. You understand? So that how the procedure is going on. So when the stimulus is taken by the dendrites, this particular dendrites passes the information to the particular cyton. Cyton carries the information to the axon. Axon carries the same information directly to the nerve terminals. One more thing. What is the use of the myelin sheath? Myelin sheath can also prevent the leakage of message when the message is carried out from the dendrites to the nerve terminals. Clear, understand? So during this particular on the way its journey, there is no chance of deviation of message. Directly the message directly taken to the particular nerve terminals. So these nerve terminals may also contact with another kind of another cyton dendrites or another cyton axon or axon terminals. Okay. So one more thing, this kind of neurons in our central nervous system, for example, in okay 10 billions totally in our central nervous system. Of course, in our nervous system, 10 billions of neurons are present. Out of 10 billions of neurons, more than 2.5 billions of neurons is only accommodated only in the part of the brain. Brain occupies 1 by 4th amount of neurons. Okay. The remaining 75% of neurons are completely present in the total occupying body itself now. So here the main point is, see that, so this is the neuron. So these are called as the dendrites. So the dendrites also passes the information to the cyton. Cyton passes the information to the axon, and axon have the terminals here, axon terminals. Sometimes the axon terminals may also contact with another cyton. See that this is one more cyton. These are called as the dendrites. This is, so this particular site. Sometimes this can also may also contact with another cyton dendrites or another cyton nerve terminals. Okay, this particular site is called as synapse. This is the functional unit of the nerve system which can carry the information from one neuron to another neuron. Synapse is the particular functional unit. Synapse is a small gap between the two adjacent neurons by may contacting with the dendrites with another cyton, another neuron dendrites, or may axons of the another one, terminals of the another neuron. Or understand clearly. So this particular site is commonly called as synapse or synaptic connections. Clearly, there is no separate protoplasmic connection. There is no clear separate protoplasmic connection between the nerve terminals to the another cyton dendrites. But actually, this message can also transported from one neuron to another neuron by two main processes, either chemically or either electrically. There is a two kinds of message passing procedure taken place, either chemically or electrically. Chemical synapses or electrical synapses. Mostly in our body, there might be a chances taken by the electrical synapses. But actually, there is no separate protoplasmic connection in between these particular synaptic gaps. They're having a two kinds of message transmission taken place by the either chemically either electrically. So at first of all, Galland concluded this particular information, then the several scientists also understand what is the real connection between these neurons, that is also complete connection with the electricity, how the power is generated from the wire to the wire, from one place to the another place, how it is be transported. The same kind of information is also regarding this particular information also in the neurons also. Within a fraction of seconds and milliseconds, they can pass the message without taking any hindrance, without taking any disturbance. This is also completely connection between just like as a electricity. I understand. So there is a two kinds of connections, two kinds of communication channels taken place here in this one. This is a typical neuron here we are regarding this now. Depending upon the function, neurons are basically two categories. Clearly, those are called as sensory neurons and motor neurons. Second one, motor neurons. What are called sensory neurons and what are called motor neurons? Sensory neurons are also called as ferrying towards. Motor neurons also called as ferrying away. Clear, understand? Where a third category neurons also present. These are commonly called as associated neurons. Associated neurons. What is the main structure and function of this one? Listen clearly. As the sensory neurons carries information from sense organs to CNS or simply brain or spinal cord. Brain or spinal cord. Clear? Sense organs are from the body organs. Sensory neurons taken the messages from the sense organs or body parts to the brain or spinal cord. That's why that is commonly called as ferrying towards the central nervous system, towards the brain or spinal cord. Such a one is commonly called as sensory neurons. All the senses, all the senses, okay, including the complete senses, also carrying this kind of messages now. Okay, second one, motor neurons. That is in reverse. Okay, motor neurons which can carry the message from brain or spinal cord to effector organs. Effector organs. So from the brain or spinal cord to the particular effector organs, which can give the return back message. That is commonly called as ferrying away from brain or spinal cord to away. Regarding this, the third category neurons are commonly called as associated neurons, which can also integrate. These are also commonly called as integrated neurons. Integrated neurons or interneurons. The message can be analyzed by these particular neurons. Okay, sensory neurons, motor neurons, and associated neurons. A small chart to you for our easy understanding clearly. See that? A small flow chart also to you. Sensory neurons, muscles of the organs. Here, brain or spinal cord. See that? These are the parts of the CNS, muscles of the organs. These are the parts of our body one. Clear? So the message is taken from the muscles of the organs to the brain or spinal cord. That can be carried by sensory neurons. Okay. So that flow chart can also given by like this. Sensory neurons passes the messages to the brain or spinal cord. And again, here motor neurons are present. The motor neurons also called as ferrying away. See this? This can also passes the information and again responses to the particular muscles of the organ. And we can also make this particular one sense organs. We can also make like this one more part one. Muscles of the organs are connecting with sense organs. Sense organs are connecting with sensory neurons directly passing the message to brain or spinal cord. And brain and spinal cord also give the responses to the motor to the particular muscles of the organ once again through the motor neurons. What about the third category neurons? Those are called as associated neurons here. Associated neurons. These are also called as the interneurons. So when the message is taken to the brain or spinal cord from the one direction, and again from the brain or spinal cord to the particular effector organs once again in the reverse angle, in reverse direction. So what kind of message we are receiving, what kind of responses brain or spinal cord passing to the muscles of the organs, these two kinds of senses, these two kinds of actions can be analyzed by associated neurons. See that muscles of the organs passing the message to brain or spinal cord through the sensory neurons, and again motor neurons giving the responses from the brain or spinal cord to the particular muscles of the organ. Interneurons or associated neurons can analyze the matter, what kind of message we are receiving. Basically, we have three kinds of neurons: sensory neurons, motor neurons, and third category associated neurons or interneurons, which can also analyze and integrate what kind of message we are receiving now. Okay. Okay, the next topic we will discuss on the next topic. Okay, thank you.